Hi, everybody. It's Mike from Here, the Watchman. And, today we have an amazing guest with us. He is an insider. He is a Marine Corps pilot. He then left the Marine Corps, went into commercial airline flight, retired from that. He is the foremost authority on the Malaysian air disaster. He's really, truly one of those insiders. And he walks around with a target on his back, and he still keeps going. I want you all to welcome Mr. Field McCONNELL. Field, thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay, and I want to address two things you said. Target on my back. Oh, I can hear some background noise, I guess. Should we resolve that?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a target on my head. I have a target on my back. I have a target on my vehicles, and I could care less. I'm not going anywhere until my Lord and Savior calls me home, and my phone's right here, and he hadn't called yet. Now, as far as my being targeted, I accept that gladly. And you know that on a certain day in December of 2006, God asked me to expose evil. And I'm doing it. And I was nervous at first. For about probably 3 or 4 months, I felt uncomfortable. But I've been doing it since December 4th of 2006. And so this is my new normal. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to go out on a limb. And I don't have any foreknowledge of something very good happening. But I truly believe that a earthly award is about ready to be dispersed. I can talk to you later privately, but the manifestation will be when everyone within the sound of the internet hears that Field McCONNELL's going to a Texas ranch down in either Athens, Mineola, or Canton, Texas area to establish a ministry. Now, I'm not a clergyman, and just like everybody listening, I am a sinner, and you're either a sinner or you're not, and everybody's listening is a sinner. But guess what? It's all bought and paid for, meaning not the ranch. The ranch will be bought and paid for. But as Johnny Cash recorded and sang and said, it was settled long ago. And I've been working for God full-time for 10 years and 10 or 11 months. And the work is not complete. We saw that in Las Vegas. We see that with the pedophiles. But I'm working, and I hope this is, from a Christian perspective, okay to say, but I truly believe that God is working through me, because I know I don't have the background or the brain power to do what it appears I'm doing. So if anything looks bad, blame it on me. If anything looks like it's getting accomplished, give the glory to God, Mike.
Amen to that. And, folks, I have met Field in person in Dallas, Texas, spent time with him, interviewed him several times on the show. He is the real deal. Field, before we get started, I have to take care of a little bit of business. Folks, I want to let you know, Here the Watchman is returning to Dallas, Texas, March 22nd through the 25th, 2018. We want to see you all there. I want to thank all of you who listened to our interview with Messianic Rabbi Zev Porat. All 1.7 million listened to that particular interview. And I want to remind you that a lot of the people that listen to that are already buying tickets to the conference in March. So if you want to come to that conference and hear Zev and the other speakers, get on board now. Go to our website, hearthewatchmen.com. And on that website, you're going to see a list of speakers. That is our preliminary list. We are also bringing in this time intensive workshops, one-on-one workshops, small, that you can get trained for the times that are coming ahead. With that, I want to get right back with Field. In Field, Las Vegas, a disaster, just incredible. But things are coming out. And I know you're getting inside information from your sources all around the world. And there was a video that went out today. You sent me one. I've seen a couple other ones. There's one on BP News of a taxi driver. And it brings up something mysterious, which is what appears to be muzzle flashes from about the 3rd or 4th floor. Now, I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. This is why I brought Field on today. Field, can you talk to us a little bit about this? And was it one shooter, two shooters? Was it murder or suicide?
It was murder. But since you took a little time to do business, I'd like to do a little business. I'd like you to reserve me for March, and my wife and I.
You got it, brother.
Yeah, no, I'll send you an email afterwards, and I'll pay for it. What I want to talk about is the evolution and I'll say evolution instead of a lone gunman. Every single lone gunman issue I've ever covered had 3 shooters or more, but usually 3. In this case, there may have been 4, but there were at least 3. There were muzzle flashes from the 4th floor, the 32nd floor, and what they referred to as gate 7, apparently. Now, I stay busy 29 hours a day, and this is not something that I willingly stick my nose into because I've seen this so often, I know exactly who did it. But I'm going to give you some content right now that I don't think you could get from anybody else. And that is, this particular planned crisis bears the fingerprints and the modus operandi of CIA and or Marine Corps assassins, as George H.W. Bush did, going back to January 22nd of 1991. George H.W. Bush arranged for the murder of Colonel James E. Sabo, and it was meant to be a murder-suicide where the intended murderer was going to be James Sabo. He was going to murder his wife, and bless her heart, she's still alive. And I won't rest until George H.W. Bush and his goons are brought to trial, which will probably come. I don't think he'll live long enough. But there's a documentary, and it's like a feature documentary. It's pretty long. I've already seen the trailer. It's very, very good. When that comes out, I'll tell you what, I don't want to put you on the spot, but when that comes out, I'd sure like to talk to you and say, see, Mike, I told you it was going to come out. It will come out. I know the producer, whose initials are SG, but they did the same thing to my peer, PEER, and I were stationed at Marine Corps El Toro in the 70s, and we appear on the same page of a recruiting brochure from 1974. So it's impossible that I'm making this up in 2007 after October 1st. Let's take a look at the date, October 1st. First day of the new fiscal year. It's the first day that was possible. I mean, with God, all things are possible. We know that, and that's why I'm relaxed about saying that George H.W. Bush ordered the death of my fellow Marine aviator and Christian, and I'd protect either a Christian or a fellow aviator. I also am an advocate and a protector of the most vulnerable people in the world, children. And my sister and Hillary, and I've reported this in court, but my sister and Hillary used to run the biggest pedophile net-centric network in the world. I'll leave that for another day. When they killed, here's why I draw out the parallel between October 1st and the killing in Las Vegas, where it is alleged 58 people died, and I'm not suggesting they didn't. But it's clearly a crisis acting episode, and I can send you an email. Actually, I published it. I won't have to send it to you. It's on, I did a radio show of my own yesterday, and there's a document that lists all of these crisis acting false flags, none of which you need an IQ above 93. It was one of the flights on 9/11, by the way. But you don't have to have a super rocket science IQ. These perpetrators, it's not that they're as stupid as they look. They are unwise, and if you want to know where wisdom comes from, it's written in Proverbs 1:7. Fear of the Lord. That goes back to, am I afraid with a target on my head? No, I wear it with pride, because anybody who targets me knows who I'm working for, and they know they're going to miss. But October 1st was hoped to be the first day of what some people call the global reset, what some people would call the return to the gold standard. And the people that oppose that most vehemently, and this, whenever I issue an opinion, I try to say this is my opinion, because I don't want somebody to hear what I'm about ready to say and think it's a fact. But it's my opinion that the people that are most distressed about the upcoming potential, and I believe it'll happen, the return to the precious metal standard backing behind our currency and coins, I believe the satanic, well, they're called the synagogue of Satan, but they include the Jesuits. I'm not bad-mouthing the Catholic Church or Catholic people. I'm bad-mouthing with very much authority the synagogue of Satan and the Jesuits at the Vatican. The Jesuits now are so out of control that a lot of the better ones are calling for the Black Pope to be kicked out, which I think he will be. But also the global bankers, and I'll just use one name, and everybody knows it, the Rothschild banking cabal. They don't want to let go, and they even communicated recently in the month of September with the United Nations saying, you will continue to allow us to run the United Nations, or we will attack the United States of America with germ warfare. And I know that we're supposed to talk about Las Vegas, but see, it is impossible to focus on one of these crimes of the synagogue of Satan without explaining how it's a modus operandi. And once you see it, you know what you're looking at, and doing anything that makes it look like I'm full of myself. I'm not. I mean, anybody who believes in Jesus Christ and knows the price that Jesus Christ paid for our souls, nobody could be egotistical if they're truly a Christian, because how do you become worthy of salvation? It's only through the grace of God. But I can tell you this, if people think that I can't see the pattern, I would just direct them to go to YouTube and take a look at 3 YouTubes that were done in 2007. And it looks like I did them. Mike, I'm telling you the truth, my hand's on my heart, and my other one's reaching upward. I didn't make these YouTubes, but there's a lot of people that know I've got a target on my head, and they rightfully, give credit to me for doing all this work I'm not capable of doing. The 3 YouTubes are called The Pattern of the Crimes, The Pattern of the Signs, and The Pattern of the Times, Times. And the crimes, the times, and the signs, they're all in 3 separate, I believe it's called, I say I believe because, see, I didn't do this, the 9/11 trilogy. But you can certainly find these by putting my name in, and my name doesn't matter, but it's FIELDMCCONNELL. And I hate saying my own name because some of the tire kickers and the tin hat people and the disinformation people wrongfully conclude that I'm full of myself. No, I'm full of the physical manifestation of the grace of God, because he saved this sinner who's pretty discretionary and ardent, ARDENT. And when I was 44 years, God came and knocked on my door. I answered the door. We introduced each other. And then he put me through a series of trials, and some of them are very painful. But on the 4th of December of 2006, he said, come work for me. And I expose evil, and I expose it in all forms. So let's get back to Las Vegas. Those were not semi-automatic rifles. They were fully automatic rifles. They were shooting from different azimuths. Now, I don't want to put you on the spot, so I won't even ask the question. But I know if I ask this question, in fact, I'll ask it to the audience, not you, Mike. What other Bush-inspired assassination had multiple shooters, 3 for sure, one of whom's name is Jimmy Files, and he just got released, I think last May or June. He's been in prison since he took a shot at JFK. But JFK, it's a pattern. And once you see the pattern, they can do it at Sandy Hook. They can do it at Aurora, Colorado. They can do it at Cudahy, Wisconsin. They can do it at Boston. And every time they do it, we're on them like a chicken on a June bug. And, you know, I say that because I want to show the bad people that a common person with a poor vocabulary can cause them to be exposed and adjudicated. They're already adjudicated by God. They can get out of that by getting on their knees and saying, I'm really sorry I killed Colonel Sabao. I'm really sorry I made it look like a guy named Paddock killed 58 people. But they have to do that privately on their knees in probably a closet. Who I even wonder if God could even pardon them for what they've done. And sadly, Mike, one of those is my own sister, Christine Marcy. And if people don't know the name Christine Marcy, they should see what she's done, not only to God's little people, but to her family, of which I'm the sole remaining one alive. That goes back to the target on the head. What a bunch of cowards. They should have killed me 10 years ago. So not only are they cowards, but they're not good at timing. My sister has been involved in probably everything that's been bad in the United States of America since no later than the year that she created the United States Senior Executive Service. That year was 1979. But she was dirty long before that, and she's involved in 9/11. She's committed serial treasons. She was in the Department of Justice. You're familiar with a guy, I can picture him. I can't think of his name right now, but a man was shot down in Arizona and killed in the gun running Fast and Furious deal. My sister and Eric Holder are the two kingpins of that murder. My sister was involved in Branch Davidian. She's involved in the Murrah building. She's involved in 9/11. She's involved in pedophilia. And I want to just, well, I'm going to get back to Las Vegas, but I want to say, as far as my sister and pedophilia, on the 21st of August of 2014, I testified in a Wisconsin court under oath that my sister and Hillary Clinton ran the biggest pedophile network in the world, and the judge excused me from the jury, which is just fine with, you know, he's not my judge, and he's not going to slow me down, and he's not going to protect the pedophiles. In fact, it seems from where I'm sitting, I get a lot of information every day, and I want to say I don't go looking for it. I'm very widely known to not respond to information. I don't have time. I'm working 29 hours a day. I'm just like Colonel Blake in MASH. I've got to assign my time to the most pressing issues that I feel I can contribute to the most rapid exposure. But as far as Las Vegas, they had multiple shooters. They were at least 3 locations. They were not semi-automatics. And it may well turn out that the corpse that's identified as Paddock, it may well turn out that that was a crisis actor named Gene Rosen. And the reason I say crisis actor, the pictures where you see a dead man with blood all over his face, those pictures are very similar to the pictures of Colonel James E. Sabao. And those pictures were put out as disinformation because when his murderers, who were Marines and CIA people, and if you've ever heard the name Kay Griggs, Kaygrigs, her husband was a Marine colonel, and he was one of the members of the Marine Corps assassins team. And these people think they're getting away with it. They think because some crimes haven't, well, 9/11, that hasn't been addressed for 16 years and about 20 days. It will. I've personally, representing a small group of people, have offered a qui tam, which is a lawsuit for upwards of $3 trillion. If President Trump and those who are working genuinely for the United States of America, and I mean what used to be the Republic of the United States of America, not the corporation of the United States of America, but Trump and his 3 Marine generals and the perpetrators of 9/11, they all know if he ever decides it's time to take another look at 9/11, he knows who would be an original relator, R-E-L-A-T-O-R, because I'm in a unique position with 9/11. But let's get the whole evolution. It's fake, fake, fake from the from the first episode or the very first gunshot until the last. And my question to the law enforcement, in fact, my question to the federal government, and this will blow your mind, if they want to even suggest that Paddock did the shooting, I would request that representatives of the ATF, it used to be BAFTE, Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms, Tobacco, and Explosives. But after the government started all these explosive events of their own to scare us people into demanding gun control and demanding more police authority over we sovereign humans, they're trying to scare us into us begging them to protect us. This goes back to your the target on my head. Who do you think's protecting me, Mike? One guess.
God
right.
protects you, brother.
Yes, and I would call on Christians to get active in any way. Not everybody can speak. Not everybody can see the patterns. Not everybody wishes to spend their time learning of such horribly evil things. It is absolutely sickening. And it's sometimes difficult to get to sleep knowing, what I know or what other people know about these egregious attacks on innocent people in all countries. And that goes back to the ranch I'm confident we're going to get. I have an email right here. I could show it. It just came in while we were talking, but it's from a realtor in Texas who gave me a personal message. And just to hold myself accountable with you, Mike, I'm going to send you that email after we get off the air. And what I will do is I will cleanse the realtor's name and I'll replace it with any name you tell me. And you can tell me later. You don't have to tell me now. But the event in Las Vegas was a really sloppy attempt to get gun control. They're obviously very nervous. And who are they? I would say they are the people that want total control of the United States of America so that they can have what they've wanted all along, total control of the whole world. And when I say all along, I'm going to give you a specific year, 1763. The guy who later changed his name to Rothschild, and I can never remember if it's Mayer Amschel or Amschel Mayer, but he wanted to get control of the world. He was a banker in Germany. So he talked to a guy named Adam Weishaupt, Weishaupt, because the felonious banker, who wasn't overly bright, he had this friend that was very bright, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, but people can look it up, and all you need to find it is 1763, Mayer Amschel or Amschel Mayer, and you can put either in because the computer will fix it for you, and New World Order. So the banker named Rothschild later, which means red stick or Rothschild, asked this very bright guy who claimed to be a Jesuit, but was in fact a Jew, or the other way around. But Wikipedia won't lie to you. Well, maybe they will, but not in this case. But since 1763, a certain consortium of evil members of the Synagogue of Satan have been intending to control the world, which is really outrageously stupid. Why would any creator create a world that other people or other entities could control? They can't. The world's going to go according to God's plan, not the New World Order, not the Rothschilds, not some Synagogue of Satan, not fake Jews. And I love Jewish people. Some of the best books I've read or am aware of are written by true believing Jews. But the Jews have been totally ripped off by fake Jews. And that's not why we're here, but it is the group behind Las Vegas, which is the subject matter for today. So the Las Vegas false flag was done by the same group that has done all the other false flags, including 9/11, Malaysia 370, and Malaysia 17. And I only bring those up because if I'm widely regarded as being credibly informed on any single or two or three issues, the aviation events of 9/11, Malaysia 370, and Malaysia 17. And, you know, when God says go somewhere, I go. I've been to Malaysia. I've been to, well, I've went to Kazakhstan. Now, I didn't even know where Kazakhstan was when I accepted the call. But later I got a globe and I looked at Kazakhstan and I said, well, good, that's not too many hours from India, and I love Indian food. But, you know, after I quit, or after I retired 8 years early from Northwest, because they were trying to do what the bad guys always do, when a whistleblower pilot comes along, like me, and my name doesn't matter, but I've said it already, there's other whistleblowing pilots that got the same treatment that God spared me from. And that treatment is, if you bring up a safety issue where there is liability on an airline or a union, they will tell you to shut up. And of course, I could give a little hand signal for my answer, but I basically told them, no, I'm not shutting up. The safety of innocent people is at stake here. They said, okay, well, this is over 4 letters. They said, okay, then we're going to send you in for a physical. And I said, nice try, but I'm already off on a medical because I had a hernia done 3 weeks ago and I have to wait 6 weeks before I can fly again. So giving me a physical would not do anything because I'm still on a 6-week medical leave. But then what they do, if they can't get you medically or scare you, and that's what it's all about right there, this whole thing. The Las Vegas thing, that's all about fear. And so if you can conquer your fear, you won't fall into the trap of believing the mainstream media. But if they can't, going back to pilot whistleblowers, and I'm going to name 5 when I shut up here, but if they won't get you to shut up with a doctor, they'll send you to a shrink. And they send all the pilots to the same shrink. And I've said his name so many times. His name is Dr. Ed Elliott of Los Angeles. That guess what? He got tired of me saying his name. And on the 31st of July of 2017, he retired. Some of the pilots who have been ill-treated, and that's called medical fraud, by the way, by Dr. Elliott, include Wayno Witter, W-I-T-T-E-R, a Delta pilot from Georgia, Newton Dixon, D-I-C-K-S-O-N, a Continental pilot from Houston, I believe, but somewhere in Texas. Another Continental pilot, John Stipetich, S-T-I-P-E-T-I-C-H, he is a Continental pilot. They tried to get me, and God, I'm not saying this lightheartedly. I'm saying it as a reflection of how kind God's been to me. They tried to get me to go see the shrink, and I didn't even realize their purpose. Their purpose was so that the shrink could give me a diagnosis and then put me on psychotropic drugs where I could not be an expert witness in court. God saved me from that. He inspired me to tell these guys to buzz off, which I did. And I retired in a 10-minute decision. And I'm not motivated by money. And frankly, I don't have much because the state of Wisconsin and other corporations, and you heard me correctly, the state of Wisconsin is a corporation. They've been trying to pick my bones, but guess what? They got to sort that out with God because God's not letting me fall prey to them. The last pilot I want to mention was a Spirit airline pilot, and his name, I was going to say was Mike Driscoll. No, his name is Mike Driscoll because he didn't get shoved into, he did get a diagnosis, but what they really would like all of us knowledgeable whistleblowers to do is to suffer bodily harm or become mentally incompetent or be scared to death. First of all, I'm not scared of death, so how can they cause me to be scared of death? Mike, over to you. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No, you're right on there with what you're saying. I love the way you move through all this because it helps the listeners understand that there is an ultimate agenda here.
Yes,
that we're faced with, and that is the frightening thing that we need to look at. You can't take any one incident or situation. You need to put them all together, and that's what you're doing. Now, you've mentioned a couple of times, and I want to bring this out to all of our listeners, the ranch.
Yes.
Now, you're starting the ministry at the ranch. What are you going to be doing at the ranch?
We're going to be inviting veterans who've been harmed by their own country to come and spend 1 week. If we, everybody can have a free week. And if we aren't full, we would allow people to stay a second week if they'd like. We would just like to serve them. In fact, I've never said that in relation to the ranch, but that's what Jesus did to us. He served us. Didn't Jesus wash somebody's feet?
Yes.
Well, I don't think I'm going to get involved in washing feet, but our group, and it's a very small group, we're going to appear at one level, and we're not doing anything tricky. We just want to reach out to the veterans, because the veterans have been so horribly and evilly treated by the same country that they believe they're working for, which of course they're working for something, but it's not a country, it's a corporation. It's the corporation of the United States of America. Their address is 1500, not 1600, that's the White House. And this is, you know, I'm busy all day long. I might be a little off on that, but there's an organization at 1500 Pennsylvania Avenue, Northwest, Washington, D.C., that's called E Pluribus Unum, and that's a corporation. And I've got a legal, you know, talk is cheap. I don't know if I sent you this. I hope I did. I've got a 46-page lawful filing that I intended to file yesterday in U.S. District Court in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. But this lawful filing is for $1.66 billion. And the defendants, at this time, I reserve the right, and it's my right because it's my head with the target on it, but I reserve the right to amend the date that I file this. But you will certainly know when I file it, because even before I send it to the defendants, I will have it on the internet, because the people we're fighting, they don't fight fair. What do I mean by fight fair? They do not pursue the truth. They are liars, and they work for the father of all lies, which is Satan. And that's how I can sit here looking rather relaxed and say, I know they're going to lose, because, and this is personal as well as spiritual, but I only have one sibling, and that's my sister. And I'm telling you very clearly, she's the second most evil person in the United States of America that I'm aware of. That's the caveat. There may be more than one person more evil than her, but I'm not aware of them. And I've already mentioned, and I won't do it again because that's a cheap shot. And it's taken the bully, is it called the bully pulpit? I think it is. But just because I'm being interviewed, I don't want to mention the most evil person's name again, but I've mentioned it in writing many times. And all of these lies that are put out are to cause us fear. And I'm not a minister, and I'll get back to answering the Texas question, but that's one of our forms of ministry, is to gather in these veterans. That'll be our first group of targets. So the most visible guest will be veterans that have been harmed by the United States corporate government. The second, so there's the veterans. Now, if we can't fill it up some week with veterans, we might open it up to what some people would regard as, you and me, patriots. Because patriots can become even more effective when they gather, and instead of using just your own mind and knowledge level, if you get in a room, well, that goes right back to your Hear the Watchmen next March in Dallas. I was really lucky because John B. Wells invited me on a live interview. He said, too bad we didn't meet earlier. I would have invited you down to Hear the Watchmen in Dallas next week. And I said, so why don't you just invite me now? He says, well, there's only a week notice. I said, John, you don't know how I work. I said, if you gave me notice at 3 p.m. on any day that I should be in Dallas, I'd be there before midnight. I just live an hour from Minneapolis. But so we're going to serve the veterans who've been harmed by the United States corporate government. We're going to serve patriots who want to gather for educational events. And I have no reason to plug your outfit other than respect. I just sent out an email, and this is funny how I reserve the right to do the best thing I can. I sent out an email, and you may not have seen it, or somebody might have forwarded it to you, where I said, I'm so busy, I can only do interviews with 4 entities. And those entities, did you see that? Did you get wind of that?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
Well, see,
you were busy.
Oh, I am busy. I'm really, can you see there's damage to my left eye. Can you see it?
I see it.
Yeah, you know how
We
much
can see it.
you know how much that worries me? Like that. The eye is one of the organs of the body that is quickest to heal. But this is why I was supposed to go to London Sunday night, October 1st. And I changed my plan simply because of this eye. Because, I flew for 40 years. And when an airplane goes up to 37,000 feet, the cabin altitude goes up to maybe 75 to 8,500 feet. Well, the pressure inside our body by God's perfect design is God's got pressure inside my body right now and pressure inside yours. And there's pressure inside my left eye. If I went up to 8,500 feet, the pressure inside my eye would be constant, but the pressure outside my body would be less, which may cause a more grievous injury to my eye. I'm not worried about my eye. I'm not worried about survival. The only thing I'm afraid of is I'm afraid that maybe if I don't pay attention or if I get too tired, I won't serve God in the manner and at the level He wishes for me to serve Him. But there's nothing I would not do for God, because look what He did for me. He gave His only Son over as the third level. So we're going to do the veterans, we're going to do the patriots, and then after we've done that for a while, and I'm sort of letting the cat out of the bag right here, that ranch is really going to be sacred ground. And right now, the two ranches, I'll send them to you after we get off. One of them is 450 acres in Athens, Texas. One of them is 100 acres in Mineola, Texas. And the reason we're looking down there, and this is an act of God, if anybody's anywhere near Dallas, just drive 70 miles southeast on number 20, Interstate 20, and go to the town of Canton, where they have the biggest flea market every Monday, first Monday of every month. And if you're on South Trade Days Boulevard, you'll go by a Veterans Memorial where the centerpiece of the memorial is an F4. And it's an F4 I flew for 13 years. And if anybody thinks God doesn't have a sense of humor, they're wrong, because they can go to their device, their iPad, their PC, their telephone, and just Google Field McCONNELL's jet, put apostrophe in for McCONNELL's, Field McCONNELL's jet image. And you'll see the airplane that I flew, not the type of airplane, Mike, the very airplane I flew for 13 years. And it's right down there in the Lone Star State where you've got a convention, where I was born and where I intend to die. Now, God may have another plan. God knows when and where I'm going to die, but I'm going to try to massage this and make it work so I can be in Texas when I die. But I don't care about dying. If you know where you're going, there's nothing to fear. My only concern would be, did I say enough kind things to people I love? My 5 children, my wife, who that's funny how this is all connected. Because of my vocal and blunt exposure of truth, my wife, Denise Irene Clark McConnell, has been kept out of this country since December 19th of 2016. And I felt so sorry for the customs guy that turned her around, because I'm pretty good at observing behavior. He came through the security doors into where I was waiting for Denise, and he was livid. And he was trying to say he was livid because of Denise and I. I knew better. I could tell from his behavior. He had been told to turn her around. And see the discretion under the regulation, the discretion of the customs agent that interviews anybody coming into the U.S. if they have a reason to want to interview them. They have total discretion to turn them around. But guess what, Mike? That's a two-edged sword, because they also have, they are the only authority. So yes, I could get mad at customs or DHS, which owns custom, or I could get mad at him. But my wife was tired and I was tired, but I wasn't mad. But this guy, in his behavior, he was so livid. He was mad because he knew he was doing an unlawful, a cruel and unusual punishment. And I'm just gonna, I know you have something to say, but I've got something to show you, because sometimes, it's easy to talk about the Bible, but it's good when you can show people that aren't yet Bible believers that there's something to look at. Here is a sword. I won't pull it out because you don't have the time, but this is a sword case. It says FMC, that's me. It says USMC. And I'm going to say something that you're going to be shocked at first, then you'll see why I'm saying it. Nobody in the United States government wants to deal with this sword. Now that sounds like if I had 5 attorneys in the room, they'd say, would you like to change your statement? You just threatened us. I'd say, no, I'm not changing my statement. The sword I'm talking about is not that Marine Corps sword. If you look in Ephesians 6, and I think it's 17, it says the sword of, let's see, the sword of truth, I think, which is the word of God. And now I'm going to blow your mind. On 9/11, there were 4 call signs of E4Bs, which is military doomsday 747. There's only 4 in existence, but there were 3 of them in the air, 1 on the ground, but there were 4 call signs. And if you don't think God solved 9/11, the call signs, the first 2 don't matter, so don't even listen or write them down, just to show you I've got the knowledge. VI 36, Vivi 36, Venus, like the planet, Venus, VENUS 77. Then the other 2, Sword 31 and Word 31. People can Google that all day long and they'll find it to be true. And that's because somebody who is involved in the false flag of 9/11 knew that he or she was part of a very sinister act, and they wanted to leave a clue. So somebody that's knowledgeable of aviation and is a Christian that knows scripture could solve it. And 9/11 solved, Malaysia 370 solved, Malaysia 17 solved. This Las Vegas thing, I've been spending a fair amount of energy on it only because of so much information coming to me. Not that I'm seeking it, because I know it's going to be solved. These people use the same modus operandi and they have the same objectives. They want really, really strongly to scare all the Americans, and they want to get all the guns. I've got a very, very short answer for those guys, and it has 2 words. But rather than that type of an answer, let's just say God is not going to allow you to go unpunished. And when you kill innocent people, you can expect to be dealt with, not here on earth, but you know, you're going to go to the smoking section, but you're going to have an interview with Jesus before. And I'm not saying that he's going to send people to hell. I'm saying he's got the discretion to send people to hell, and he has the discretion to save us. And I feel like singing a song, which I won't do, but Chris Christopherson wrote this song, "Why Me, Lord?" You know, he's got a plan for all of us, but you know, I pray to him almost every day, thanking him for trusting me to be involved at this level, because somebody on earth, not somebody singular, a whole lot of somebodies need to get busy and work for the kingdom. And you know, does it pay well? I can't say it pays well, but I can tell you it's not taxable. And which is sort of funny because the IRS is a corporation, and it's owned by a corporation named Northern Trust. And Northern Trust is a multinational corporation that the lawful legal branch of Able Danger is going to bring to its knees. But I'll be involved in that, but that's not something I'm knowledgeable of. I know what's going on in the background. So we're working for veterans. We're working for the Republic of the United States, and we will be working for Jesus Christ. Now, as far as some veteran who's been beat up by his own country, if they refuse to believe, that's fine. Who are we supposed to preach to? The believers or the people who don't yet believe? We know how it ends. In the end, every knee shall bow, not like the NFL. They should stop that. But when Jesus Christ has his triumphant return, every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. And I believe he's coming soon, but you know, nobody knows the day and the time. So it's incumbent upon us to enjoy our life while we have it and recognize his second coming when we see it.
Field, thank you so much. I could talk to you for I could do a 3-hour show with you. But unfortunately, I have a conference call at 3 o'clock with Pastor Paul Begley. But abledanger.org. He also has a YouTube channel that you need to check out, which is Able Danger. Just Google Able Danger YouTube, and you'll find his postings there. Follow this man. He's telling the truth. He's speaking the truth. Field, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's always my pleasure, and I often say it's my mandate. God has asked me to do this, and I do it willingly with no fear and no favor. Everybody's a target of the information, and everybody who is doing these horrible things like pedophilia and false flags, we're going after them. And it's we going after them, but it's God that already has them, and God already has us. So I'll see you in March. I'm going to put some more comments on the YouTube. Now I'll say goodbye to you so you can get the YouTube up at your leisure.
Well, again, thank you. Now listen, folks, remember, and it's very true, you can do anything with Jesus except nothing at all. Field's a prime example of that. Get out there, get busy, make a difference for Jesus and answer his call. Until we see you next time here on the Watchman's Report, God bless each and every one of you, and we'll be back again tomorrow.